Usually there are two levels of the government. As we know that state government and the central government. One is for the government for the entire country, which we often call the central government. That is usually responsible for the few subjects of the common national interest. For the whole country, there is a government. Whatever the laws needed for the entire country is enacted by the central government. So the others are the governments at the level of the provinces or states, provincial or regional government, which we call state government, that look after much of the day-to-day administration of the each state, their own states. In our country, we know there are many states, and each state government has their own power. They enact laws for their own states. Both these levels of the government enjoy their independent power. So central government also has independent power to enact laws or make laws. The state government also. Under the unitary form of government or unitary system, either there is only one level of the government, or the sub-units or subordinates of to the central government. We know that in unitary form of government, like Sri Lanka, there is only one government in many cases, or even though if there are state governments or provincial governments, they are subordinate or under the control of the central government. The regional governments or the state governments cannot take a decision of their own. They are subordinate to the central government. The central government can pass on orders to the provincial or the local governments, but in a federal system, central government cannot order the state government to do something. Here, they can give suggestions only. Central government can give suggestions to the state governments. They cannot order the state governments to implement the laws enacted by the central government. Particular cases we need to follow the central government. But here, state government has powers of its own, for which it is not answerable to the central government. Both these governments are separately answerable to the people. So separately they make laws also. Let us look at some of the key features of federalism. What are the important features of federalism? There are two or more levels of the, or we call as tiers, two or more than two tiers of the levels of the government. We can say three-tier system or two-tier system. In our country, we have three-tier system also. Okay, so what are they? Let us discuss. Different tiers or the levels of the government are governed at the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation, administration. These all are followed differently, because the central government has a system and even state government also has. Then comes in our country, especially we have a three-tier Panchayati Raj system. So different levels of Panchayati Raj system also. In the rural area and the urban area, there are taxation or administration and legislation. These are different, that we have studied in the smaller classes, even in a 6th, 7th standard. So the jurisdictions of the respective levels or the tiers of the government are specified in the constitution. Government or these three levels, two or three levels, whatever, in different countries have different levels of government, different tiers. Two-tier or three-tier systems are there. Whatever it is, they have to follow the constitution. The specific rules and regulations are mentioned in the constitution. According to the constitution, they have to function or work out. So the existence and authority of each tier of the government is constitutionally guaranteed. So they should follow the constitution. Now the fundamental provisions of the constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by the level of government. Alone or one-sided government cannot change all these laws existing or the constitution existing. Such changes requires the consent of both the level of government. If any constitutional amendments or constitutional changes need to be made, both the level of, if there are two levels, central government and state government, they have to collectively work for it. Any one government unilaterally or one-sided cannot take decisions or cannot amend the constitution alone. Now, courts have the power to interpret. We have already studied courts or the judiciary are known as the watchdog of citizens' rights. They often interpret the constitution and the powers of the different levels of government. So they observe, the judiciary or the court always observe what are the works done by the these levels of the government, so that they often interfere in the matters of government also. Now, the highest court or the high court of any state or even the supreme court in the country, they act as an umpire. You know what is umpire? Umpire is a person, one who presides over any games. So here the court works or acts as an umpire. That means the court always observe the work done by the different levels of the government and even controls them and suggests them and orders them if there are any different changes needed to be made. So different levels, if there are any in the state, between the state governments and the central government, if there are any dispute arising between these two different levels of the government, court or the judiciary interpret or interferes in the matter and settle them. Okay, so court can utilize their power to settle all these matters, all the disputes. Other thing is sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure its financial autonomy. For each state has states and central government has different powers of collecting revenue. For the regional development, for the state development, state has an autonomy or independent power to enact laws for the taxation or collection of revenue. It is the states are empowered. We can say the states are empowered to collect revenue in their own way. Now the other thing is the federal system thus has a dual objectives. One thing, that means two main specific objectives are there. One thing, to safeguard and promote the unity of the country. State governments also has the objective to safeguard and promote or encourage the unity of the country, to maintain the unity of the country. Even though there are many regions and states, unity of the country is important, while at the same time accommodate regional diversity. We know that there are many states, each state has its own diversified culture and traditions. All states have their own culture and traditions, different languages exist. So there are all these diversities to be unified, so in order to make our country one. So therefore two aspects are crucial for the institutions and practice of federalism. Governments at different levels should agree to some rules of power sharing, and they need to agree the power sharing in a federalism or a federation. They should also trust each other. There are the two levels, like the central government and state government. They should trust each other. Also, they should an ideal federal system has both aspects, the mutual trust and agreements to live together. So the mutual trust and agreements are needed so that federalism can work properly. Because there should have a trust between the central government and the state governments. So the exact balance of power between the central and the state government varies from one federation to another. We know that all the countries in the all federations in the world are not similar. Okay, what are the laws enacted or what are the constitutional amendments have taken place in our country is not similar way followed in other federal countries. Okay, many federal nations are there, but all work differently. So they are not each other are not similar. Now the first route involves independent states coming together on their own form to form the government in a bigger unit. Some countries we can find the first route involves independent states are coming together on their own to form a bigger unit. That means so that the pooling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. Many of the countries, federal nations, all the states have independent powers. They come together and as a bigger administrative system. So there are no much interference of the central government. So all these sovereign or independent states coming together are called, this type of system is called the coming together federation. That is, for example, USA, Switzerland and Australia, they have a coming together federation. That means how many states or regions or provinces they have, all together work. All have independent powers and there is no superior authority like the central government in our country. So in the first category federations, all the constituent states usually have equal power, not like India. We know that different states are there, even according to their area and population there are different powers also. And the constitution guarantees different types of powers to the regional governments. But in the coming together federation, all states are equal there. All states are given equal power and they are equally strong. This in the federal government or coming together federation. Other form of federation is that which is a holding together federation. These are the mainly two types of federations. The second route is where the large country decides to divide its power between the constituent states and the national government. So in the holding together federations, power is divided among different states and the central government. Best example we can say India, Spain and Belgium are examples of this kind of holding together federations. In the second category, the central government tends to be more powerful. And we know that in our country, Spain and Belgium, India, the central government has more powers. At the same time, state governments also have independent powers. Very often different constituent units of the federation have unequal powers and some units are granted special powers. We know that our country there are some states like earlier before when Article 370 was cancelled. Before that recently this had taken the state of Jammu and Kashmir had special powers. Okay, not like our states, whether Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu or other states and Jammu and Kashmir was different. So Jammu and Kashmir had special powers granted by the constitution. As per the constitution, they had a special powers. So this is possible in the holding together federations. Some states have their own powers.